Namaskarams to all. Welcome to the panel discussion. I really appreciate all of you being here. To our viewers, hello viewers. We have our distinguished panelists here today who will share their insights to help us better understand about the topic, Indian classical dance education and its impact on the youth. Our Indian classical dance is very disciplined and structured, which has been passed on from over many decades, from the teacher to the student, which we also call the Guru Shishya Parampara. It has a very strict set of dance codes, language and techniques, which are part of the context of Indian culture, tradition, and religion. So what are the ways we can popularize and provide greater exposure to and motivate young people to take up classical Indian dance forms? We know that Indian classical dance forms are a great way to familiarize our children living abroad with their culture. And over the years, our Indian dance forms have gained much popularity across the globe. But there are still gaps which can be addressed and which can help motivate the young people. I'd love to hear your insights on this, please.
Namaskaram to all of you. Namaskaram to all the viewers. In my opinion, I feel, first of all, the youth today are very, very keen on knowing the why of what they are doing. So I think that would be the right place to start in taking this with a kind of sensitivity, cultural sensitivity. So most of the time what happens is we teach them the what to do and how to do it. But the why behind every action and every thought, every idea that goes behind a composition. It could be a traditional composition, or it could be a modern take on a lot of social issues. But once the children are aware of why the grammar is so, be it Angikam or Vachikam, Aharyam, Satvikam, whatever be it, I have a feeling that as long as the why of what is being done is explained with clarity, then the children are very eager to understand it. So basically, to make them understand that culture is more a way of life, and there's a lot of sound scientific backing to it. And it's not just to do with religion or superstition. So once we explain the why of it, I think that would be a very sound place to start.
I think it's a very important phase for the teacher to be knowledgeable and pass on that knowledge to the students, the why aspect.
Because it is a big responsibility being a teacher in the first place. Sure. So I think it is the duty of the teacher to first of all equip herself or himself with the sound knowledge of what is being done, the actual purpose of the art form, and it's the endless scope that the art gives. And I think it starts with that understanding of that responsibility and working towards fulfilling it.
Sure.
Thank you, Radhika. I think I would just like to add with Radhika ji. Radhika ji has beautifully put it. I mean, I won't say it is a gap, but the thing is, I mean, the generation has changed. They are, right from their they are born, they are so much introduced to these days, I mean, introduced with the digital medium. Even the kids are so much into it. So I think the way we have to reach to them, we have to make it, I mean, the why has to be in a very animated way so that they can also get, the lane through which they can travel beyond. That has to be more exciting for them. And to make it exciting, I'm not saying that the traditional method of teaching is not at all exciting. Of course that is. But sometimes it's like, we are doing it, we're teaching it, and we are, not sharing the meaning behind it. Why are we doing Bhumi Pranam, for example? What is the reason behind doing Bhumi Pranam? Everyone, all the students would come to the class and they would do Bhumi Pranam. But what is the relevance of doing a Bhumi Pranam even today? Or also, if we can embrace through our dance, through our movements, whereas how life skills are associated with, these teachings, these dance lessons, how, be it the discipline, be it team management, all those things are included within our system of knowledge itself. So if we can impart that too, that becomes more engaging for the present youth. I think so. So, yeah.
Very valid point. Yes. I mean, we need to bring forth that idea in a subtle yet powerful way.
We pay so much importance to the aesthetics, but that aesthetics itself, the understanding of aesthetics itself involves so many layers of life skills also are associated with that aesthetic part. So be it, understanding your body, situating the body in that particular space and time, how our body responds to various spaces and time. For example, I mean, if you ask any dance practitioner, be it a traditional dance practitioner, great master, or even from present generation, if you put the dancer on any space, the dancing body will adapt to that situation and time spontaneously. How does that happen? So that is also a part of the life skill in which our body gets attuned to a particular space and time. So how through dance we travel through these life skills, and that helps us situate ourselves in the present society in a better way. So I think that is what we have to also impart, apart from our the way we train it to our kids. I think that will become more engaging, and also it will be a new informative way of understanding dance and also imparting dance.
Very well explained, Ms. Ajay. Thank you. Let's hear from Rekha.
I think to put in more extra, I think the first impression I will look at the kids first, and not the younger generation in the sense, maybe, not a thing. As a kid, for example, a 6-year-old kid or a 7-year-old kid, when he or she comes to a dance class with a parent or comes to learn something with a parent, the impression that the teacher gives to the student is very important. So the approach has to be very, very, I won't say non-dignified way, but then make it more, gullible to the student, and the more vulnerable in a constructive way the teacher is, the more easier it is to approach the student as well. Because we all have come through that system of gurus being very strict, and I've even now also I've heard some gurus like beating on the knees if they're not. So that kind of fear is already there in the kids.
Great. Yeah.
That is already there. So that has to be removed, and that impression of saying that a dance class is not a very strict thing. Yes, we do follow certain rules and regulations for the student to understand the nuances of classical dance, because we say it is classical because it's a classic.
Yeah.
We can't just do a chatka or a matka and then say this is classical dance. But then we need to make it, very, very sweetly explain to them that everything, all this has a story behind it. And each of these stories are connected some way to the human form. And again, then when we say that, definitely all, whether, irrespective of religion, any religion, whether it's a church or whether it's a mosque, I think each of these children are already imbibed in certain, in religious activities. So we will say that though we don't stick to one Hindu religion, but in this religion, we have so many informations connecting life of, our regularity of life to these norms of religion, if you say, or spirituality, if you say. Spirituality is a little bigger word, but if you say that now, when I was a child, when I was say in standard 1 or 2, in my school, they had made us write that we will do one good deed every day. And believe me, at this age also, I still remember it, and I make sure that I, practice that every day. So when the kid is given that kind of impression that we are doing all this to connect the human form, to connect life with classical dance, which is nothing lesser than the actual life. When we give this kind of approach and this impression to the kid or to the younger generation, I think it is even more viable for them to understand what it is. So I think that is one of the aspects that I would like to put through.
Very well said.
Also, I would like to add to Rekha what Rekha ji had said. She had said beautifully. Also, one of the reasons behind, storytelling is so much an important part of all our dance forms. One of the reasons behind taking the stories is to connect actually the daily life. And if even today, when we talk to kids, a story makes it very exciting. But if we have, but if we unravel, it's not just a religious story. Come on, it's but beyond religion, it's something that is what we can all connect. If we unravel that commonality, I think that is what connects. I mean, when we do, if we have to tell a story about Kalya Mardana, beyond, what are the things that is associated with Kalya Mardana? If we not just Kalya Mardana per se, but things which a kid can relate to Kalya Mardana, story that a student can relate to the present environment too. That is what will bring what Chitraji had mentioned about the gap. I think that is what will reduce the gap and will make this child also embrace the stories as part of their daily life.
See, we have some very beautiful points which have just come out of our discussion. As Rekha ji pointed rightly, the stigma of a teacher being very strict and punishing the student, which has been ingrained or rather passed on through their peers or through their parents of learning an art form. Yes, discipline is very important, and try to build a rapport first, a good rapport with the student, so that this part of storytelling, it becomes very natural and becomes a part of their lifestyle, isn't it? How beautiful. All of you have shared it so well. Bringing Indian classical dance education in schools. So how do we actually teach dance? We have covered this aspect in our earlier question as to when a student joins in a dance class with a teacher. Yes, there are certain ways that one can incorporate. Dance education in India today, it is a learning with disparity. Like many schools, they do not have the basic infrastructure, let alone a dance teacher or an art teacher. But there are, again, at the other extreme, there are schools that have the state-of-the-art dance studios and art departments. And at the same time, for most young people in the country, the only exposure to dance is through movies, or their social dances through their social functions, which they learn by participating in community activities. And there are those who have access to every possible avenue for training, both within India and abroad. So, and in some countries, however, dance education is considered to be a very important aspect of a child's learning and education. So how do we as dance professionals create awareness? How do we make this? I know it depends a lot with the policy decision makers, but as dance professionals, how do you think that we can take this dance form to all the schools and make them as part of their school curriculum? How can this be done? I'd love to hear your views.
There is this Association for Bharatanatyam Artists, Abhay, which has been doing this project called Jana Bharatam, where we take themes and topics which are relevant to children and social themes. It could be just stories, things that the children associate themselves with. So these kind of topics have been taken to the schools and performed for the students. That is a very beautiful initiative, I feel, which kind of establishes a link between the students and the art form. Because most of the time what happens is the children are not able to associate themselves with this art because of the content. So if we can modify the content to suit the current generation, but at the same time not deviating from the grammar or the traditional way of executing. So I think that is one way in which this art form can be taken to the students and target the student population. And one more thing that the government of Tamil Nadu is aiming at doing. I mean, I think there's been an official announcement, but the process of actually executing it is underway, is to make dance as a co-curricular activity and not as an extracurricular activity in the schools.
Fantastic.
So this is an initiative that the Tamil Nadu government is looking to take forward in the from the next academic year. So even for that is part of the content creation. What we're looking at is to incorporate poems and stories that the children are learning as part of their either their history or their language lessons. So these kind of basically to make the content more relatable for the children is one way in which I think this art form can be taken to the students and create more interest in them. Because a lot of things that we do, say in a hardcore repertoire, are things that the current generation are not able to associate themselves with. Appreciate the nuances of, say, a Shringaram. But to catch them young, I think whatever is more relevant, more, something that they can associate themselves with. Simple stories, like stories from mythology or fairy tales, or simple stories with moral values, because moral science used to be part of our curriculum when we were all students, but that's missing big time now. So this art can be used as a tool to communicate those moral values, which are very, very necessary for the current generation. Because no point in blaming the youth without us giving them what is needed for them. So exactly. I think the onus is on us to see to it that the correct values, I mean, it need not be preachy, but they can be sugar-coated pills where, we communicate what is essential for the society, for the youth, and something that they also look forward to. The students always look up to the teachers. It's up to us to give them what they're looking for.
That's so beautiful, because when you start handing over the lessons or the content of any Indian classical dance form, in all probability, a student might get intimidated. So I think what Radhika ji said was, it is beautiful and it makes sense, because you have to make the youth first relatable, about our culture, about our dance form and why we are doing it. Such fairy tales or short stories which convey a good moral message to the youth can be used or interpreted through this art of storytelling. Absolutely.
Because this is something that I have tried in my dance class also. So when we start, we don't start off with hardcore namaskaram and tattadu. We first try to understand, explore our body, the various ways in which the body can actually move, just to feel the different muscles in your body. Yeah. To feel the different parts of the body. Same way with the emotions also. It was very surprising, like when I had very little kids and we tried to do the different, the Ashtarasas. It was very surprising that Bibhatsam was what came very spontaneously to all the children. Not even Hasyam, not even Bhayam. Bibhatsam was what came out very spontaneously, because, being cynical, I think, has become so part of our our psyche and our mindset. Yeah. So that was like a big shocker for me, that that these little children should find cynicism something very spontaneous. So that's when we made this conscious effort to introduce very positive and happy emotions in children. Yeah. So that's when I started this the project of making these children come up with their own stories also sometimes, or take up any story that they like, and then just express it or communicate it with just body movements. The only criteria was they should not use words. Just do any movement, move your body in any which way that you want. Forget the grammar of dancing, whatever it is, but just communicate, express yourselves. So that actually opened up a lot of channels. Even for the children, the way they started communicating improved a lot. And then they started understanding and appreciating the rigor of learning it with discipline. Beautiful. So I think just give them that space and then hold them back.
Yeah, sometimes we might be just amazed by the amount of creativity that comes out of these children when you give them exercises, right? So that's a beautiful
so
way.
Even when we do serious choreography for performances, even then it's always been like that. It's never a one-way traffic. So we open up to discussions. We sit and first discuss the compositions. and then all of us pull in our ideas, and then the end product is something that everybody is able to relate to, and you feel an ownership over what is being done because everybody has contributed towards it. So there's a responsibility of bringing out the product in the best way, because it's not about an individual, it's not about you and me, but it is the art that stands up.
Yeah.
Far greater than the artist.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah, Radhika ji has mentioned it beautifully. I think as a mentor, I mean, as a teacher in the class, we also have to be really on our toes and be creative, so that we have to bring the kids' attention and make it very engaging. But I think here in India, SPICMAC and also outside, SPICMAC is Society for Promotion of Indian Classical Music amidst youth.
Mm-hmm.
That has been playing a very important role since several decades. It was started by Dr. Kiran Seth, and even right now, our present government has initiated the NEP that has given importance to arts education. But even before that, SPICMAC has been playing a very important role in demystifying Indian classical music and dance amidst youth. So this whole concept of lecture demonstration and be it a Varnam in Bharatanatyam or even in Hotriya, where the language at times to various other kids, they don't understand the Assamese dialect or they don't understand the Brajavali dialect. Then with the help of, when we demystify or when we narrate the story beforehand, students can understand the stories very well, or whatever we are going to narrate before the kids, when we demonstrate it beforehand, it draws the students, the audience, the young ones closer to the art form. So, and also it's not in a very formal space. The interactive medium of presenting the art form also brings bring the kids very much closer to the art form. So that is what I felt, and that has been a very important role by SPICMAC in presenting various art forms of India, traditional art forms of India, closer to the youth. And through SPICMAC, there's also in the SPICMAC, there's also another module called workshop demonstration, where the art forms have been taken to places where there are not even physical roads.
Oh, right.
So
that's nice.
Yes, to various interior places. I think Rekha ji is also
Yes.
I mean, also been a part of that. And that workshop demonstration, which was initiated by Ashok Jain ji,
how to develop a culturally responsive teaching in Indian classical dance for young people. I think we have already, touched on this. And as we said rightly, we need to make it first relatable and then adapt it to the present, and then, build up from there on. There is also another challenge that we have: how to create awareness about the dilemma between tradition and talent in youth, and help them to sustain our Indian classical dance forms, art forms. We come from different regions, and each one of us are unique, and we possess different talents, skills, and abilities, and each dance form is very distinct in its own way.
I think this is also important. There's also one important when we are imparting a particular, again, going back to what I said, dance is not just, dance per se. It's a philosophy of life. When we try and impart that, in that particular form, we also have to make the child understand it's part of you. It's not something which I'm enforcing or forcing upon you, and that's why you are learning it. If that process, if that embracing happens organically, then I think the child will try, or the learner will try and build, that rapport of the personal talent, and also integrate with the, learning that particular tradition has put forward to it. So I think when we say, for example, be it in the field of choreography, be it in the field of interpreting a particular poem, or be it that freedom of interpretation, that freedom of creativity, if that is being allowed to a particular learner, I think that is also because that is what it's also part of our learning system in all our traditional dance forms, because whenever we interpret an abhinay, it's not what our teacher has just said. For example, I could refer to my training, where I was thinking that my teacher I would just repeat in the abhinay, like in the pure dance section, I was trying to imitate what my teacher was showing and demonstrating the steps. And then he also made it sure that those steps, I don't copy him as it is, but make it a part of my own response of my body to that particular step. In the Abhinay section, my teacher, Adhyapak Bhainasarja Ghanakanta Bora. So I was expecting him to teach, like, I still remember the first story, Borgit, which we took was Kotora Khela Hariye. Look, Krishna is playing with a coconut nutshell with his friends. That's the line. So I was expecting him that he will show me movements. I'm going to copy those movements, but no. So his entire treatment was, how are you going to imagine that entire line? Put your imagination. So then this entire thought process started, and when I started imagining the line, unknowingly that authorship which Radhika ji was mentioning in choreography, everyone is putting forward their own ideas. So that authorship, or that enjoyment of interpreting something from my own, made that entire text something which is a part of me. And even today, that's why that interpretation has given me so much of creative freedom in all the choreographies, that the way I interpret, the way I reflect, or the way I perceive things, that is being reflected even in my dance. I think if we train our younger generation that dance, look, this is a grammar. Once you master this grammar, you can, your creative field is open, and you can interpret your particular thoughts through this medium. I think that will make the dance an organic movement of their body and mind.
That's so well explained, because how I see is, this confusion between tradition and talent. One is the actual hardcore dance grammar, as Anvesha ji rightly said. And how do we actually implement that to ingrain the traditions in the youth is a challenge. It's the responsibility of the artists. These are the ways how I think we can take it forward.
Sometimes what happens is I feel traditions and religious superstitions get confused.
Yeah.
Everybody's confused of it. Now that when we say it's a tradition, it means to say it's been followed from a long time and it has a meaning to it.
Yeah.
Which when especially when it comes to dance, I've heard, because we have multilingual and religious people here. So I've always heard that, it's always, why is that you always have, Rama killing Ravana, or, Lakshmi is give it of wealth and things like that. Why is it always related to religion is what they ask. So we have to make them understand that the tradition of classical dance has come from all these mythologies. Yes. But before that, there's a tradition that we do, like of course, when Amisha ji said about the Bhumi Pranam that we do. We pay salutation to the god. We pay salutation to, Mother Earth. We pay salutation to our elders. So the basic of every classical dance is salutation. The basic of every classical dance is to pray, is the winning of good over evil.
Yeah.
That is a tradition that we follow, and that has to be explained to the student. Now, when you talk about talent, it is also like, now we all study, we all have studied, all of us studied math, all of us have studied history. How many of us have become historians? Or how many of us have become, a scientist? No. So we should tell them that you start learning these things, and once you know that you are good at it, you are talented, you are skillful, and you can express yourself and be a professional. Then you take this forward. Till then, like how you learn other subjects, keep practicing this. Keep expressing your talent and show the teacher and show yourself also that, okay, this is my creative side and I think I'm good at it. Or this is my analytical side and I'm good at it also. So you can take both together. Being a chartered accountant, I've always told people that dance has a lot of math. Dance has space management. Dance has time management.
Yeah.
So dance has, you use resources as well. So when you put all this together, it becomes dance. So again, coming back to the same thing, that keep your traditions, keep whatever traditions at home that you do, yes. But when you come to a particular dance class or you're following a particular style, maintain that tradition, not because you're going to follow some religious activity, because you are imbibing those to your physicality and evolving yourself as, a proper youth or a good human, with a lot of, good qualities and moral science, as Akka said. And then sharpen your talent. Keep working at it. Because if today you learn addition, you will not learn multiplication tomorrow. It's the same thing in dance as well. So you learn today something, and then you start processing it. Then you analyze, assess it, and then you produce.
Very well put. Yeah, you're helping them, giving avenues to help them groom as a, as a person. You're giving them an opportunity to understand why we are doing and what other form of expression can be the best form of learning other than using creative expressions. Thank you so much. Radhika ji, would you like to add on to this?
Just talent without a channelizing with the help of a traditional learning process is probably like, horses running amok in all different directions, and then the chariot is going to collapse.
Sure.
So this is more like, channelizing a learning, disciplining the mind and the body and the soul, so that the journey is, it's focused towards a particular direction, which is more often an internal journey rather than an outward journey. So once you know the tradition, once you have learned the grammar well, then you have the poetic license to deviate from that grammar, but still hold on to the essence of what you have learned, and also hold on to the essence of what it is that you want to communicate. So I think at every point of time, that balance is essential, to maintain that balance, so that you're very clear in your thought process, in the process of communication, because dance ultimately is about communication and self-expression. So you know exactly what it is that you want to do, and you have a strong grammar to it, you have a strong tradition, which helps you, which is more like a tool for you to write poem. So when the poetry comes out, it's beautiful, it's clear, and it's also with focus, it's channelized energy. So I think it's more like a blend. It's going hand in hand rather than being a predicament. So to hone that talent, to channelize that talent, tradition is necessary, but that is not the end all.
Yeah.
That is like a stepping stone. That's like a lesson that you need to know to be able to take off from there.
So beautifully explained. And I think here today we have some very key takeaways for our audience. We have addressed different facets or different aspects where the youth can be engaged in these dance forms, or first create an awareness and how they can build up. And learning these art forms right from the formative years, it gives them, an upper edge to be responsible, good individuals later on in their adult life, help them to take, the good decisions in their life. And there are many organizations across India who are having such great initiatives, and you all as professional dancers also are making, taking great initiatives in your own humble ways. And I really feel that, in the near future, we are in the right direction. And in the near future, I think we would have more of awareness, more of recognition, and more of respect for our Indian dance forms, particularly in the youth. And as professionals, it would be, we would be extremely happy if, it becomes, the art forms become a part or considered to become a part of the school curriculum across India. It would be nice if this could be inculcated and, taken forward to help the youth of tomorrow to be more sensible, responsible, and at the same time, as Rekhaji rightly pointed out, not everybody learning dance is going to be a dancer, or not everybody taking maths is going to be a scientist or a mathematician. But it all depends on the individual's passion and how they want to, what they want to do later on in their life. However, we are providing them avenues, we're providing them opportunities to take, they have a lot of options to decide from, rather than just going for hardcore maths, science, or technology. Arts is also something that is extremely essential, not just to earn a degree, but it is a part of to become a part of our lifestyle. It is very essential. I think we've had a wonderful, very lively discussion today. I'm very grateful to all of you for sharing your valuable insights on this topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste everyone, my name is ShruthiUK and I'm going to be moderating today's panel discussion on the relevance of St. Tyagaraja's compositions in the lifestyle of modern youth. So the aim of today is to really just hear the youth perspective on St. Tyagaraja and how his compositions are pertinent in our lives today and why we still perform his compositions despite so much time passing really since he was around. So yeah, it's going to be like a semi-structured discussion, and we hopefully will hear some really interesting perspectives from like a really talented bunch of like South Indian classical artists. So I will introduce myself and then I'll pass it on to everyone else to just briefly introduce themselves. So my name is ShruthiUK. I've been playing Carnatic violin for 7 to 8 years now, and my teacher is Sri Vittal. Yeah, that's basically all there is to me. So I'll now pass it over to my name twin, almost, Shruthi. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. My name is Shruthi. Currently, I used to learn how to sing Carnatic music, but I failed miserably. So now I only do Carnatic violin now. So I used to learn from Srimati Sita Raghu from Abu Dhabi, which is where I was born and brought up until I came to the UK. And I now learn from Dr. Madurai Balasubramanian from Chennai on Skype, like most of us do now. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing, Shruthi. We'll now pass it over to Govind.
So I'm Govind Krishnan. I'm currently an 8th grader in California. So I was first introduced to Carnatic music at the age of 4, but I started vocally, and soon I started to learn on the Bansuri from Shashank Subramaniam.
Amazing, very cool. So you've got a violinist, you've got and a little bit of a singer, and we've got a flautist. I think it's flautist. Okay, cool. So now we'll pass it over to Divya.
Namaskaram, everyone. My name is Divya Rajan. I'm currently in 11th grade in Massachusetts, and I started my musical journey when I was around 5 under the tutelage of Srimati Geeta Murali, and am currently learning under Srimati Aparna Balaji. I also learned Bharatanatyam from Srimati Sunanda Narayanan, and I've been learning Bharatanatyam for around 10 years as well.
Okay, very, very cool, very, very cool. We shall now pass it over to ShruthiUK.
Vanakkam everyone. I apologize for not having my camera on. I'm sat in my university room, which has awful bandwidth, so I'm sorry about that. But I'm Satvika Krishnan. I've been learning Carnatic music for over 10 years now. I started with Hindustani, but then transitioned to Carnatic vocal. My guru is Kalai Mamani Mudigundanchri Asan Ramesh, and I completed my Arangetram in 2016.
Okay, cool. Everyone's very good at summarizing their like musical journeys. Very nice, very cool. So last but not least, Smitha, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Smitha Rajan. I'm a college student at Brown University. I also started learning Carnatic music under the tutelage of Guru Geeta Murali, and then transitioned to Guru Aparna Balaji, who I'm currently learning from. Additionally, I also learned Bharatanatyam from Guru Sunanda Narayanan for the past 15 years now.
Okay, very cool. So as you can all appreciate, we're joined by some really talented and enthusiastic young individuals. So I'm very excited to hear everyone's perspectives on St. Tyagaraja and how his compositions are relevant today. So let's begin the discussion. So So as we all know, Saint Tyagaraja was a very prolific and revolutionary Carnatic composer who's created and composed almost like hundreds or thousands of compositions. So why do you think we still perform these today? If let's say ShruthiUK, if you want to take this one.
Sure, yeah. So I think there are kind of different reasons why we still perform Tyagaraja's kritis today. I think the main thing, and it's going to be a recurring theme, is kind of how much devotion he has in his songs. Bhakti is kind of a leading driver in all of his compositions, and as I'm sure all of you will know, how much of a Rama Bhaktar Tyagaraja was, and how in pretty much all his kritis he addresses how much he loves not just Rama but God in general. And there are so many songs where he completely surrenders himself entirely to God, and I think that's kind of one of the key reasons we, like, from a kind of religious and spiritual point of view, we still sing his compositions, because it kind of reminds us in our day-to-day lives how kind of how insignificant we are in the grand scheme of things, and how we must like completely surrender ourselves, from like I said, in a religious point of view, but from more of a like a socio-cultural point of view, kind of like an academic perspective, I guess. There's kind of different factors like the importance of Tyagaraja's kritis in the repertoire of Carnatic music, and how it's been passed down from generation to generation, which is kind of, if you think about the kind of like families of Carnatic music, how that's been very, very important. And yeah, like the influence of our gurus and the influence of our upbringing and our parents, and how Tyagaraja has actually kind of become a pivotal and kind of crafted the scene for Carnatic music, is also another kind of big socio-cultural factor, I think.
Yeah, for sure. That was a really like well articulated idea, for sure. And I definitely completely agree. So the level of bhakti and the level of emotion and devotion really in Tyagaraja compositions is on another level, really. And I think that's definitely what makes his compositions unique, really. And that's definitely one reason why we sing them today. Does anyone else have any thoughts that they want to share?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that was just said. Also, I think the technical merit of Tyagaraja's compositions is very important. All of the compositions have a lot of technical beauty in them, and like the intricate melodic patterns in addition to the devotion. And I think Tyagaraja's compositions are very unique in blending those two aspects seamlessly, and then that what makes them great to perform even now.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point actually as well. I think having something that's so like technically challenging and technically advanced makes it more interesting to perform, as well as like interesting to hear. So yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Nice. Okay, cool. So kind of in relation to this, is there like anything in particular, any composition of Saint Tyagaraja's or any lyric maybe in particular that really resonates with you? Is it something that like shaped your life maybe? Is it something that you like follow on a day-to-day basis perhaps? Is there anything you'd like to share with the group?
So there's one kriti composed by Tyagaraja, Nidhi Chala Sukamma and Kalyani, where Tyagaraja incorporates Bhakti Bhava, which is basically the idea of Bhakti. So the backstory behind this kriti is that Tyagaraja was invited to become the court musician by King Sarfoji, and King Sarfoji sent Tyagaraja very valuable gifts, enough to bring Tyagaraja abundant wealth. But Tyagaraja politely declined both the honor of becoming the court musician and the gifts, and composed the kriti known as Nidhi Chala Sukamma, where essentially Tyagaraja explains how he finds true happiness and resonance when he surrenders to Lord Rama instead of receiving these gifts high in value.
Oh yeah, that was actually that was a great point, and that was one of the points I had to say. So nix that one for me. It's okay, but that was really good. No, for sure. So I think there's definitely things you can learn from his compositions. For example, like what we can prioritize in our life, and as you said, so like is wealth and like fame really as important as devotion to God? And I think that's really something that's quite interesting to explore, especially as like young people who maybe don't live in India as well and don't have like the like traditional and cultural surroundings that that you get in India, really. So I think it's nice when you're maybe questioning your cultures, questioning your traditions, questioning your like roots, to have this sort of influence and to really be able to, I don't know, I think be able to just get some guidance, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, that was a really good explanation and thought from Govind. Divya, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, I was actually thinking of the same Kriti. And I think the theme of trying to find the balance between materialistic wealth and having self-control, or which can be seen through devotion to God or in other aspects, is something that makes that Kriti very relevant in today's time. I think Saint Tyagaraja's message of surrendering yourself is very important, because as we can see in today's time, there's so many different materialistic possessions that people have, whether it's technology or just comfort, like luxurious items, and being able to find the balance between both aspects, I think, is very important and something that resonated with me from that Kriti.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think there's definitely like loads of temptations now as well. Like as you said, technology, especially with TikTok, it's very addictive, and it's just like nice to like, I don't know, to have like some sort of understanding of what you should, maybe not what you should prioritize, because I feel like it's not really like it's not like a rule that you should like follow this, but I think it's just nice to hear like what they did back then, I guess. But yeah, okay, cool. So I suppose this kind of like leads me on to my next question. So we've talked about the relevance of Tyagaraja's compositions today and why we perform them, but do you think, is there anything that might stop us, especially as youth, from performing Saint Tyagaraja's compositions today? Is anything that maybe
perhaps perhaps the fact that some of them are I mean, I suppose very difficult to perform. I mean, there's a lot of relevance to Tyagaraja's Kritis at the moment. And I think one issue is that a lot of us just keep singing some of his composition, a very specific set of compositions over and over again. I don't think that we get to learn a lot of it. There are some really commonly known kritis. I feel like in this like Zoom meeting, collectively we all might just know some of the same songs. Like there are many Ekaika Ragam kritis that we might like not know. Mainly because I guess since it was all through word of mouth, some of them might have been lost as well, which is a bit of a shame as well. I think in terms of like meaning, if you're asking why we don't like want to learn Skritis, I don't think that some of us have that, because, well, we all get to take part in the Aradhanas every year, and like it just becomes part of our life. So I don't think people who engage in Carnatic music like don't want to learn them. I suppose some songs you might get a bit like tired of hearing them. For me, I know this is a very unpopular opinion, but for me that song is Nagumomu. I get really tired of hearing it, but it's not because the song is boring, it's just that I keep hearing it over and over again. And also for one of the Tyagaraja Aradhanas, me and my friend had to perform it, so our teacher definitely made us sing that at least 50 times before we actually performed it. So that song does get to me sometimes. Yeah, but in terms of other personal meanings and reflections and songs that I really like, I did go through a bit of a Carnatic emo phase for sure. So I only listened to, songs with like a minor scale, which was for me. So me and my first violin teacher, did have a like inside joke about Deliya Leru Rama in the Ragam Denuka. So it's a really emo ragam, and it's like in the very first chakram of the Melakarta scale, so you know how emo it is. And there's this other song that I always kept listening to called Yannalu Rake in Shubhapanturali, which is also very emo. So so I do have like those songs that I really go to, and also it's also from a section of his life where, you know, he has his time where he's feeling miserable as well. So I was definitely listening to that song when I was in like my final year of high school. So I did have like that bit of a face as well. And certainly like when you go back to it and go through the meanings and see that this man who lived like 2 centuries ago was as miserable as you on some days, then you do slightly feel like you're not alone, and that he is also like reverting back to God whenever he's having a difficult time. So, you know, you can relate to it. But yeah, in terms of why I personally get tired of it is because there are just some songs that get repeated over and over again. My also other unfavorite song is Nannu Palimpa, but that's just my anger towards Mohanam, really. So you can tell what kind of a person I am. Yeah, but that's sorry about rambling there. I just thought that maybe I could find some other people who like emo ragams that and songs that Tyagaraja wrote. So I hope I find some people here today.
No, no worries at all. I don't think you were rambling. I think everything you said was like really insightful, and it was really nice to hear your perspectives. And I mean, I hope you found your emo people in this audience. Is there anyone who also agrees? Anyone who really strongly like dislikes Mohanam? Because honestly, this is a safe space.
I like
Yeah,
one of
I can't lie. I'm slightly anti Mohanam. I'm slightly anti Mohanam. I did it for my Ragam Tanam Pallavi, and you know, after that level of interaction with the Ragam, you want to cut it off.
That's valid. That's valid. So I think Govind, you're gonna say something as well.
I feel like most of us, or at least I don't like to perform in front of people as much because I'm afraid that I'll get jeered at because obviously people don't understand. But like ironically, at the same time, I feel like okay, so Tyagaraja was a big Rama, but at the same time, when you listen to his compositions, there is this like the way he's composed the Kriti makes it feel as if you are experiencing what he experienced, and so to perform it basically almost just gives you peace.
Right. That's very profound, actually. Yeah, no. And it's really nice to hear that that you feel that sort of peace when you're performing, and not so nice to hear that you feel, feel uncomfortable enough. No, you feel uncomfortable performing in front of other people. But I also get that for sure. I think performing in front of other people is definitely something that is quite scary, quite nerve-wracking, especially when you're like a little bit earlier on in your like Carnatic music journey. And I feel like once you just maybe like take that leap, when you take that first step into doing a performance, I think that's when it gets a bit easier. But no, yeah, 100%, 100%. I think that's really nice to hear everyone's perspective so far. Does anyone have anything they want to add or share, like say something?
Yeah, adding on to Govind's idea, I think also when you perform Carnatic music to various audiences, such as like a Western audience, it can also be intimidating to see like how they'll react to Carnatic music because it might be the first time that they're listening to it. But I think they actually really find it very interesting and can learn a lot from it. So it's just very important to be aware of sharing Carnatic music to various audiences.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's really nice to hear that like you're able to perform in front of like a Western audience as well, for sure. And it's nice to hear that you had a positive response as well to your performances of Carnatic music. I don't know. I think when I was first getting into Carnatic music, I had a really hard time like really enjoying it. I don't really know why. I think it's maybe because I grew up on Western music and I grew up on a very like Western lifestyle. I didn't really know much about like culture and the traditions and I think I wasn't really used to different sounds. But I think now I have like a nice like a greater appreciation for Carnatic music and I really enjoy it more. Like before, I wouldn't have been able to listen to like a Ragam Tanam Pallavi kind of thing, for example. But I still probably wouldn't in Mohanam. So I mean, take my hat to ShruthiUK for forming that. But no, yeah, I think yeah, so it's nice basically just to have this opportunity as a Carnatic music student, to just like grow really. I know we kind of sidetracked, but yeah, no. Anyway, I suppose my next question is in the turn of the 19th century, Western classical music and South Indian classical music were kind of in their peak. There was a golden age really for both of these styles. And I think in this time, Western classical music kind of made a shift from more sacred music to secular music, whereas Carnatic music didn't really do the same thing, and it generally remained quite devotional and quite sacred. So, do you think that this hindered Carnatic music's accessibility today?
Yeah, so I mean, Western music as like a general concept tended to be kind of built on the patronage system. So if you don't know what the patronage system is, it's basically where a musician will have a wealthy patron or patroness who pays them to write music. So regardless of if it was sacred or secular, ultimately quite a lot of the Western, like the great canon, as it's known, the kind of Western repertoire that we think of by Bach and Beethoven and Mozart and all his white male friends, is kind of written for a commercial purpose. Whereas when we think of the Holy Trinity of Carnatic music, with Tyagaraja, they never wrote for money. They wrote purely for God. They never wrote pieces about God for people. It was always pieces about God for God. And I think that distinction is quite important, even when thinking about the accessibility of Carnatic music, because Western music, although yes, lots of that, like if you think of hymns and kind of the hymnals and stuff, it is about God, but it's usually because Handel or someone was paid by a wealthy patron. And I think that's what actually makes Carnatic music more accessible, because when you're singing Carnatic music, you are truly singing a song about God for God, and you yourself then therefore sing for God. And I think kind of maybe the inaccessibility of Carnatic music in today's day and age is not because of the structure of, or kind of how it was created, like the structure of Carnatic music, but just a lack of touch with the Carnatic sphere. So to kind of link back to your kind of question, it's not, I don't think that Carnatic music is inaccessible because of a lack of a shift. I think it's rooted very firmly in spirituality, which is something that I think Western music lacks entirely. And I think that's what makes it, if anything, more accessible for everyone.
Okay, that's very, very insightful perspective, and I completely agree actually. But yeah, that's a really good point. Really great points. So yeah, does anyone have anything else to add? Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, I think in addition, when teaching Carnatic music today, it's important to take the time to explain the meaning behind the compositions and not just learn like the notes and the ragam. In addition to like reflect on the meaning of the songs as we're doing in discussions like this. And I think that really helps make the music relevant. And in addition, as Divya was saying, like it can be performed in different audiences. There is also like a lot of relations between the theory of Carnatic music and like Western music theory. So although they're like they have a lot of differences, like connections between them can still be made, and those can be very valuable when sharing it with different audiences. So yeah, I think even in like Bharatanatyam, which we've both been learning, it's very important for us to like know the meaning behind the lyrics. And I think the same goes for Carnatic music. And that also shows when trying to do Manodharma, because then like the bhakti of the song can really come in when choosing your patterns.
Again, another very insightful contribution. Yeah, no, I think you're both really right, really, and you've just got some great points. And I think we can like highlight, I suppose, that the Tyagaraja, Saint Tyagaraja's compositions and generally like Carnatic music is still relevant today, as we've still got concepts and stuff that go on. We still have our other mass that celebrate Saint Tyagaraja, so obviously like we're doing something right, and there is something good with Carnatic music. So it could be the spirituality, it could be like the meaning behind it, it could be everything really. So yeah, it's interesting to know that that you don't think a shift into secular kind of music would have made it more accessible. I think that's a really interesting perspective. Yeah.
Indian culture is more rooted in spirituality than Western culture. So it makes sense that its music would also be more rooted in spirituality than Western music. So I think the music really is in line with like the culture of the people that it belongs to. So that sort of makes sense to me that it should be this way.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. That's a really good point as well.
I feel like Hindustani music like allows for more songs that come with other meanings that are not just rooted in a spiritual meaning. So I'm not sure why exactly Carnatic music did not have that, because we certainly did have people who were, brought in by kings who had to write certain compositions for them, or about like some of the temples they built, or about some of the buildings that they built at the time. There was definitely a shift towards making it more spiritual in the 20th century. And there are some aspects of the current system that do make it inaccessible. But that's my personal belief. I know not everyone agrees with that, but I think it does need to be changed slightly at the moment, and we should allow for more people to sing it. Perhaps moving from a more spiritual side might help. But I mean, in terms of when I learned Carnatic music, the spiritual side did help because, well, I was brought up as Hindu and grew up in a Tamil household, so a lot of things obviously just like came together. But I suppose for other people to learn certain things, it might have helped. I just hope that the gradual shift happens and not everything is seen as very indecent. Because even for Bharatanatyam or Carnatic music, there was a shift towards the 20th century where they wanted to make it less indecent. And there was also a time where only men were allowed to perform on stages, and men were only allowed to accompany and play the violin or mridangam on stages. So those things have only started changing now again, although women used to do a lot of it before the 1920s. So certainly there could have been different ways of going into a more secular side. But whether it's a necessity or not, it's up to the next generation to find out, I guess. But yeah, that's about it from my side.
Yeah, that was again another great opinion, and I think I know you were saying that people might not agree, and I think that's the whole point of like the discussion really. So it's like to hear other people's perspectives. So if other people don't agree, it's not really a bad thing. It's actually quite a good thing just to like be able to like share your thoughts and perspectives comfortably in this like in the safe space. It is a safe space, guys. So yeah, I'm glad that you all felt comfortable enough to share your opinions, and I think you all had some really, really great points as well. And I think we'll probably wrap it up here. Yeah, I just want to say I learned a lot about everyone who came, and I also learned a lot about the topic, and I really hope that you did too. I hope you found it very useful, and I hope to people who are watching this in the live stream, I hope that you also found it interesting to hear the younger generation's perspectives. And I know Shruthi was talking about it's up to the next generation. We are the next generation, so I think it's quite nice to almost have that power, I guess, in determining the future of Carnatic music and of like South Indian classical arts. I think it's quite nice to have that really. Then thank you so much for joining, everyone. Yeah, I was really inspired by talking to you today, and I really think I've learned a lot. So yeah, thank you very much for coming.